Hello, everybody. I'm Bob DeMarzo here with Curtiz Gangi of Eaton on Channel Futures FastChat. Curtiz is the Vice President of Channel Sales and the Channel Chief of Eaton. Curtiz, welcome to the Channel Futures FastChat today. We're thrilled to have you.
Oh, Bob, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. Looking forward to it.
Hey, Curtiz, today we're going to talk about how hybrid cloud drives growth for MSP partners. I think it's a topic that every one of our listeners is interested in. And what I'm going to do is the first question I'm going to ask you today is, what are some of the best practices that Eaton implemented, I would say, during and through the pandemic, now that we're starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel here, Curtiz?
No, and I appreciate that, Bob. Listen, it started with us listening to our partners. We went out and immediately, as we saw the markets kind of slowing down, went out and started talking to them. What were they looking for? What do they need from us? They can't get into their customers. There aren't really new projects happening. And so we reinvented the Power Advantage program, Bob, which you're very familiar with over the years. Yep. And it was all about engagement and empowering the partners. We know they don't have the capabilities around power management. So we wanted to empower them, putting more resources in front, executing on business plans and MDF kind of activities that were more digital and outcome based for them. And then all the while begin to educate their engineers and their sales professionals on how to go to market differently with our solutions. And that was leading with software. What that allows them to do is then move themselves up through our program, Bob, and elevate their level inside the organization. So it was really these 5E principles that we launched. And we've been using that that's been the motion ever since the pandemic started up until this point.
Great. Hey, Curtiz, let's talk a little bit more about software, because I know that Eaton's recently made some big investments in your digital and software strategy, right? When we talk about that, I think you got to ask, how does, the Brightlayer solution allow Eaton partners, to focus on customer automation, control, and probably the most important thing they're going to want to hear from you is how does that impact recurring revenue opportunities?
Yeah, I think so, Bob. Remember, Brightlayer is an enterprise-wide organization with Eaton. It's a fundamental principle that we're launching. We've got a lot of devices out there, even in the historical electrical side of the business, that we're not receiving data from, we're not adding value from receipt of that data. So that's where this initiative started. If you remember on the technology marketplace, where we've been in existence for the last 15 years, we've had software, but it hasn't been in a subscription model, Bob. We've had services, they haven't been in a subscription model.
Right.
So what we ended up doing was taking this footprint we've got with our alliances, whether that's VMware and Dell and HPE and Nutanix, and turning those solutions into the subscription model. That's what we've launched about 18 months ago. Did proof of concept with a bunch of MSPs to get feedback on what was working, what wasn't, and leveraging distribution to create the offering that we were struggling to do internally, and then bringing that to market. And we've seen a lot of success in the distributed part of IT by the partners, mostly MSPs, leveraging that subscription type model, both for hardware, software, and service.
Hey, Curtiz, we're recording this at a time when some big cyber attacks were once again making headlines. The Colonial Pipeline made huge news, impacted, many businesses and people's lives. Eaton's been focused on the cybersecurity space for a while, right? You guys were first to market, with a number of products, which I think is probably going to surprise some of our, listeners today. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that'd be great. Bob, think about this. Not a lot of folks are thinking that the back way into a network infrastructure or into a data center is through power. But the more these devices become networked or networkable and are active gear inside of the network, there runs a risk. So we worked with, once again, this goes back to our alliance partners like Dell and VMware, EMC, Nutanix, NetApp, Amazons of the world, Googles of the world, to try to put in the best practices, not just from a UL perspective or an IEC perspective, but what are they wanting from us built in our network card or built in our actual products that's going to help make sure that that back door is locked very securely. And so about 18 months ago, again, that's always our hit line right before the pandemic, Bob, we upgraded our network cards, we upgraded the firmware on our devices to include not only the ability to stop cyber attacks, but also ransomware as well. So we're seeing that as part of the graceful shutdown component and a cybersecurity kind of fail-safe.
Yeah. Hey, Curtis, if I think about the best practices you shared, if I think about, the Brightlayer,
Sure.
that you talked about, if I think about the effort you did on the cyber security space, right, and thwarting those, we'll say, easy threats that could come down,
Yeah.
it sounds to me like Eaton's going to be a much bigger player in the channel in the years to come than you are now. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think it's twofold, Bob, and I appreciate you recognizing the strategy, right? These are a bunch of pieces we've put together to make sure that we're not only relevant today, but in years ahead of us, right? And leveraging those partnerships to do that. But I think really the biggest footprint that we have right now is with this acquisition with Triplite. For the first time, at least in our category in the tech industry, Bob, we're almost $1 billion player. And we haven't seen that type of, breadth and relevancy in our space, really, quite honestly, ever. And so couple the Triplite acquisition with what we're doing from a strategic perspective around technologies and this recurring revenue. Now you've got a significant vendor in this industry, right? Especially in the tech industry. And I look at this acquisition with Triplite as twofold. There is a workspace solutions offering that we have never had before as Eaton, right? And then you couple some of their advanced solutions that they have in their portfolio with what we've been doing, as we've talked about earlier here. You've got a two-pronged approach for partners now. Now we become a bigger, more important vendor for a lot of these resellers because we can touch both the workspace, which we haven't in the past, and secure the data center and IT hybrid infrastructure.
Great.
So I think that's how we become, a very relevant partner to the channel.
Yeah, and I think you're a relevant partner to the channel, Curtis, because you're the face to it, right? I mean, if partners have an issue, or want to know how they can build a practice or, do, execute on the, the issues that you raised,
Sure.
they can come to you, right? It's
100%.
all about relationships. And I'm sure you take that pretty seriously.
We do. And Bob, I want to tell you, I mean, that's why we revamped the program, right? It was about engagement and empowering the partners. And quite honestly, my team pushed me in front. They said, look, go lead this, get in front of the CEOs and the CTOs that are partners and let them understand what we're trying to accomplish and bring them on board to help us with POC. So we're always looking for that, Bob. It starts with the program, that, poweradvantage.com. So.
Well, hopefully you're giving partners a great advantage with Eaton Solutions. Certainly looking forward to the work you're going to be doing in the months and years ahead. Curtis, thank you for joining us here on Channel Future's FastChat. I want to thank everybody for listening in. And listen, I hope you come back time and time again. We look forward to having you, Curtis. Thank you.
I look forward to it, Bob. I appreciate it.